Little did you two know that your story and your song were going to match up so good. The father stood by him. Father's Day, like Mother's Day, is one of the most challenging to do from this point of view, and probably for you sitting there to hear it, because not everybody had a father like the song, I'll Stand By You. Some of you did. Some of you had fathers who would be there no matter what, who would be at every game even though you couldn't see. Some of you never knew your fathers. Some of you wished you hadn't. Some of you are missing your fathers terribly. You know, it's like every single emotion around Dad is possible. So I always like to say on this day, just acknowledge whatever it is you're feeling. Whether you had a Norman Rockwell kind of dad or not. Whether you're missing your dad who's already passed on or not. Whether your dad's still here but you don't have much of a relationship with him. Just acknowledge your feelings, because that's really where we're going with this talk today. For those dads who, well, I guess for all of them, we'll just say again, Happy Father's Day. And for those of you who aren't men but still call yourselves dads, Happy Father's Day to you too, because dads come in all different types, all different shapes and sizes. So I want to talk about a dad that you might recognize from a biblical story. I'm going to give the brief reminder of the prodigal son. If you've never heard this story, I'm giving this kind of short, condensed version, but if you have, a good reminder. So the story, of course, is a Jewish story, and we have to keep that in mind, that it's in a Jewish context. And the father was definitely the head of the household. And this particular father had two sons, and this particular father was wealthy. He had money, he had cattle, he had goats, he had chickens, he had a farm, he had a big house. And the sons knew that they were going to inherit that. Well, one of the sons, as he became a young man, got a little antsy. He didn't want to wait for dear old dad to die to get his inheritance. And so he said, I want mine now. Well, the dad was wise, and he said, okay. You know, a lot of us may go, no way. He was wise. He said, okay, you can have your inheritance now. So he gave it to the younger son. The younger son takes off into the far country, as they called it in the biblical story. He takes off and he goes, has a wild time. He's a party boy. He spends all the money on food and drink and dancing girls and probably things we don't want to say in church. But, you know, he had just a really good, wild time, living high in the hog, as they say, until it was all gone. Now it's all gone, and now he's like, oh, I don't really know how to fend for myself. I'm out here in the wilderness. My money is gone. Oh, shoot, with an I. He ends up having to grovel for his existence. And two things to a Jewish man would be terrible. First of all, he had to go work in sort of a almost slave type environment for the Egyptians. Ooh, that's bad if you're a Jewish person. And he took care of the swine, the pigs, really bad. Because in the Jewish tradition, the swine is the lowest of the low. And if you have to take care of the swine, that means you're lower than them. Bad position to have to be in if you're a Jew. Especially if you just came from this wealthy family. So living like this for a while, the son said, I can't continue to live like this. I guess I'm going to have to bow my head, tuck my tail between my legs, and go back home. Anybody ever feel that way when you were out and young and you thought you had it all figured out and you had to go back to mom and dad's house? It's that feeling, you're like, oh, I'm going to have to admit that I didn't really make it yet. So as the story goes, he finally decides to head home. And he's walking home, and he's still a little bit of ways off from the house, and the dad, the father, sees his son. What does he do? He comes out to greet him. He hugs him. He kisses him on the neck. And in Jewish culture, a man kissing his son on the neck is like the best term of endearment that there is. He kisses him on the neck, welcomes him with open arms, takes him into the house, says, go take a bath. Oh, because, you know, he's been dealing with the pigs. Puts the finest robes and his finest rings on him and says, we're going to kill the best cattle out in the farm and bring it in. We're going to feast. My son has returned. And then there's the older brother going, what's up? I'm the one who stayed here and worked the farm with you. I'm the one who stayed by your side. I'm the dutiful son. Why are you giving him the feast? And the Father in his wisdom just says to both of them, sons, all that I have has always been yours. Jesus is using the literal human story to remind us that no matter how we have messed up in life, that the Father, which we don't use that term here, we say God or source or divine intelligence or something like that, but in Jewish times, Father was the word they used for God. All that God has already been yours. Doesn't matter if you make mistakes, nor does it matter if you're the dutiful son. None of that matters. All that has always been yours. But he was pointing out through the story of a very wise father. I like that story. And I like the God part of the story. I like knowing that no matter what I do, there's a God that's still always going to stand by me, if you will. What we say here is that it lives by means of me. It's not standing by me so much, but that power is within me. I can't help but say just a little bit today about the 2,000 children who don't get to be with their fathers right now because of some very odd things going on in our country about children being separated from their families. I don't get that to save my life. I don't get how a group of people can espouse family values and then take children away from their parents. And so what I'm going to ask you in that regard is to pray your hearts out. To pray your hearts out that these children and these families get back together now. If you can pray in that way, it does a couple of things. It helps you get your head out of any kind of anger because now you're praying for the outcome. And I know for me, when I'm angry about something, I'm no earthly good. So I do better if I can just go into prayer, just put all of my attention on the families, not the perpetrators. You all know what I mean. Put your attention on getting these families back together so that those children have their father back. It just hurts my heart. And I wanted to say something, even though the rest of my talk has nothing to do with this. I just want to invite you to pray. Pray, pray, pray to make that change. What my talk really is about began with thinking about my women's group. My women's group that meets on Thursday mornings. We come together with a common theme. We're all women. We all know what it was like to be told, be good little girls. Be nice. Don't get angry. Don't raise your voice. Treat everybody else nicer than yourself. Take care of everybody else first. Don't be too smart. You know, we have a lot of those things in common. And so what happens is that we heal as we tell our stories with each other on Thursday morning. We get to say, oh, yeah, I had that experience too. So the healing begins to happen. We know that we're not alone. And we also begin to reframe. And we reframe by empowering ourselves with new choices. And we say, okay, I might have been taught all my life I'm supposed to be nice. I'm supposed to be feminine. But that's not serving me in this world, so how can I keep my beautiful part of what I love about being feminine and also be strong and powerful? So the women's group have this beautiful thing. And even though I'm not a man, what I observe is that men have societal messages also that keep you stuck. They're different than women's, but I don't know, men don't seem to want to talk about it as much as girls do. Girls want to talk about it. But as I observe it, it's like, okay, so what does the men talk? You're taught you have to be strong, right? You have to know how to fix everything. Whether it's true or not. You better make a lot of money so you can be the main breadwinner. You have to be in charge. You have to be tough. And above all else, don't cry. Big boys, don't cry. That's changing now, I know, but none of you are under 20 in this room. So, big boys, don't cry. Don't show your emotions. Gosh, I think if men can come together and say, you know what, we all have these common experiences, and how can we reframe this? Because that's not serving men either. So that's what the rest of this talk about, is let's reframe what the idea of masculine means, or I gotta be manly. What does that mean? I know there's women in the room who can reframe it and already have, who embrace their feminine and their masculine equally. But if we don't reframe it, we get stuck. Whether you're talking about the masculine or the feminine, we get stuck in stuff that doesn't serve us and that doesn't empower us. So feelings, that's mostly where I want to go with this whole thing. This idea of don't cry. I never better talk, big boys do cry. Well, I got to tell you that between Becky's story and your song, I saw guys crying. Woo! And I'm happy about that. I'm happy when I see them crying, because that means on some level you are in touch with your feelings. And maybe in this space here, you feel safe to let them show. Or maybe in other places you might not. But here is a safe place to let it all out. Feelings and emotions are natural. They're God-given, if you will. We don't want to suppress them. Even Ernest Holmes, our founder, said something about that in Living the Science of Mind. He said, I think that feeling is a fundamental essence in the universe. It is a part of the nature of reality. Our emotions are this original feeling. He puts those in caps, meaning God-given. Are this original feeling flowing through us as the universe individualizes itself in us. He says there is an emotional craving for self-expression behind everything. And when it is repressed, it does lead to trouble. He says that pretty serious trouble. That's his sense of humor. Perhaps to a large percentage of all our troubles. When it's suppressed, when it's repressed, when we take our emotions and our desire to express ourselves and repress it, it leads to problems. And that's true whether you're talking about men, women, masculine, feminine, all of it. Strong, tender. When we stuff it inside, it doesn't help any of us. If I say, I'm not supposed to feel this, and you're not supposed to feel that, I'm pointing at a man on purpose. By the definition of what I just did, that's limitation. I'm not supposed to feel this, you're not supposed to feel that, that's limiting. And what does this philosophy teach? Limitless. We're limitless. So the minute we say I'm supposed to feel something and you're not supposed to feel something, or any arrangement of that, we are limiting ourselves, and that doesn't belong here. That kind of thinking doesn't belong in this teaching, in this philosophy of becoming fully our God self and expressing fully our God self. Any kind of limitation doesn't belong. And that's just another form of it. We get to express ourselves because of who we are. God being. As Pat Sanchez always likes to say, God stuff. We're God's stuff. If Mary Sampson was here, she's not here. We're all made from the same stuff as the stars. Literally, made from the same stuff as the stars. There's nothing about our nature, our God nature, that says we're supposed to limit ourselves or shut ourselves down. We want to let those things fall off us. So because of our unlimited nature, let us choose to think our own thoughts, to feel our own feelings, to express our own true selves without any damn boxes. Bless you. We don't need the boxes. So if you find that you're living in any of that, that's still lingering, still hanging around, let's open the box wide and let ourselves out of there. So just reflect for a minute. Where are you in that? Are you a man who can fully express your feelings? Or do you realize there's places and times where you think, no, I'm not safe here? Is there a way that you can, as a man who does express your feelings, can be a role model for others? Giving them permission, giving other men permission to feel what they feel and tell them it's okay, brother? Rather than perpetuating that old myth. You know, I can say the same thing since I started with the women's group. Are you a woman who has come to terms with your own strength and can tell other women it's okay to be strong? Because I think it's about balance. It's not about too far one way or too far the other way. Well-balanced individuals balance the masculine and the feminine qualities, balance the strong and the tender qualities, balance the thinking and the feeling qualities. There's a balance achieved in well-balanced individuals. I have a graphic, if Richard will put that up there. So not this on the top, not polarities, but this yin-yang symbol is so profound in this conversation. This. So if we put masculine and feminine, if we've been living with the top one, we want to change that. And originally I was going to just bring the two dots together, and I thought, oh no, this works so much better. Because this represents the seeming opposites. You cannot draw the dark side of the symbol without automatically showing the light side. You see? They go together. And within the dark side, so if we were to call this for right now, masculine, just stay with me here. If we were to call the white side feminine, you see that the feminine dot is in the masculine and the masculine dot is in the feminine. You can put up or down, hot or cold, good or bad, tender, strong, any of those things I mentioned in here. I'm just using masculine as an example. Right? You cannot separate it all out. For me, just knowing that I can't draw the dark part without automatically showing the light part says it all. So if you've been living with polarities, maybe it's time to bring the balance together. You can ask yourself, where in myself would a little bit more of this balance be helpful? And where do I need to just keep it as it was? Because sometimes the status quo of things works for us as well. You know, certain places that women need to just be nice and feminine, sometimes that can work. Keep our strength to ourselves and express it to the people who want to hear it. And for guys, sometimes it's appropriate not to be crying in this environment, whatever that might be. And you know, in sports they say there's no crying in football, or there's no crying in softball, baseball, okay, whatever. That's how much of a jock I am. Sometimes it's not appropriate. I get that. Okay. I'm just asking you to check in with yourself and say, where can I find a little more balance? Where can I allow my emotions to be a little more honest and a little more shown? Or where do I need my balance of thinking and feeling, tenderness and strength to merge together in a better way so that we are well integrated individuals? I know for me that the men I admire most, there's a song in there. You all know the J the Music type. I wasn't going to say that, but the men I admire most, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. If you know the song. No. The men those of you who know me, you know that's not the truth. The men that I admire most are exemplifying the balance. And the women too. But right now we're talking about men mostly. We're redefining what it means to be manly. I admire the men who can cry. I admire the men who can just find that balance within themselves, whatever that might be. I said earlier that the roles and expectations for men and for fathers are beginning to change, and I am so glad about that. I am so glad about that. If you are one of the men who are helping to facilitate that change, to lead that change, thank you. Thank you for being part of the change, of being a man that says, I can let my emotions out, or I can be a dad who hugs his kids and cries and kisses them on the neck. Thank you for leading that if that's part of who you are, because it's so, so important. And it's important more right now than ever, because what I see is that the more this masculine change is coming, the more the balance is coming, the more the old school is digging in its heels. You see the digging in its heels of men rule and nobody else matters. We're seeing some of that right now, but that's only because it has to be healed. It's only because it has to show up to be healed. So if you're one of the men or the women who are doing it, thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to end this with, not this one, this one. Reverend Jane Beach, one of my favorite ministers. And I look to her a lot. I tell Becky I want to be her when I grow up. Her response is always, why do you have to grow up? I look to her as a role model. She's not that much older than me, really. Just the way she thinks and the way she writes, I just really resonate with. She wrote the guides for June, and I want to read her guide for today. She entitled it Father's Day. It is beautiful. So Jane gets the last word today. On this Father's Day, I honor the strength within each of us. The sheer will that answers the questions, what needs to be done? What changes must I make? I also honor our greatest strength, our personal relationship with the God of our understanding. The relationship that guides us as we make those needed changes. Born of the Creator, we all share the same spiritual DNA of peace, love, joy, and caring. Given the free will to make our own choices, we live our lives as individuals. As we each do the best we can with the consciousness we have at the time, the Creator holds us in an unconditional acceptance and love. Today, my prayer is to do the same. When I'm tempted to doubt the presence of love in another, I'm going to say that again, because isn't that where the rubber hits the road? When I'm tempted to doubt the presence of love in another, I turn to prayer. That's what I asked you for just a little while ago, to pray. Wrapped in the beloved's energy, I sense the divine message. All who exist are infused with my peace and my love. Whether they choose to acknowledge it is up to them, because I have no expectation. I love and accept everyone just as they are, including you, my cherished one. Jane goes on to say, now I know that I, too, can make that same choice. On this Father's Day, I see past the outward appearances to honor others just as they are, knowing we're all doing the best we can with what we have in this moment. I take responsibility for my own healing and my own happiness. It's true of all of us. So, happy Father's Day to all of us. And our affirmation says, it's Father's Day, and I honor my own strength as I take responsibility for my own peace and happiness. Let's close our eyes. Letting her words ring within our inner being, we turn into the God of our understanding. That one source of all life, that intelligent design that has created and is creating everything and everyone. There's no spot where this God is not just a cute little saying, but a true teaching of this philosophy. That this power, this presence, this love, this givingness, this creativity is everywhere, throughout the whole entire cosmos as far as our minds can comprehend. And right here where we are, as far as we are able to accept that as our own selves. And so I'm knowing that I am already aligned and unified with this great presence. It already lives through me. It already created me as its beloved. It already infused me with love and intelligence and creativity and joy and everything I could possibly need to live in this life. And whatever I know is my truth, I know is all of our truth. Every single one of us have this same intelligent design inside of us by whatever way we refer to it, by whatever means we feel it. It is living by means of us. And so remembering who we each are, I turn my attention to speak my word for Dad. For all the dads, regardless of how we feel about them, regardless of our relationship, let's give thanks for dads. Let's give thanks for the life that they brought to this planet. For those fathers who are consciously raising beautiful children. For those dads who are consciously making a difference to be role models. I give my deep appreciation. For all of us, I'm knowing that even with our tenderness, with all of our feelings, that we are held in the arms, if you will, of the beloved. We are safe and we are loved. And I speak this word knowing that whatever helps us achieve balance today is already here for us. It already says yes. And we are made aware of it in the ways that we can understand. As we are made aware, we find our balance, we find our way. And I'm grateful for that balance. I'm grateful for that awareness. I'm grateful to know that we are loved. I'm grateful to know that the Father, if you will, kisses us on the neck daily, holding us, loving us, indwelling us. And in that I say thank you. So grateful. With with gratitude, I just release this word now, knowing that I'm releasing it into the automatic action of a spiritual law that can only say yes. And so I let it go now. And so it is.